And we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. With us tonight, I have me, Jay Angel. I am your podcaster. We have Brad from Bassin Magazine, and we have Kyle Cortiana from the MLF. How are you doing tonight, Kyle?
Man, I'm doing good. I got to do a little fishing today and had a little snafu a little bit there. So I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but that's my fault.
But you're here, and we can actually hear you. We've here at the Bassin Magazine, we're famous for our technical difficulties.
Right. It's a weekly thing. You got to have technical difficulties.
Or else nobody would know it was the Bassin Magazine. Actually, one of my podcasts.
Right. Late's better than never.
But you're here. We're doing this. Explain to us what circuit you fish, Kyle.
So it's the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit. It's a Tackle Warehouse is the title sponsor this year. So it's Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, Major League Fishing. Traditionally, we were the FLW Tour, and then Major League Fishing bought the FLW Tour, and they kind of merged us together. So a lot of the Bass Pro Tour anglers fish both trails. They fish the Bass Pro Tour, and they also fish the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit. So that's what I fish. It's still 5-fish format, but they do kind of mix it up a little bit for our title championships at the end of the year. So sometimes they'll throw a little bit of every fish counts in there to kind of mix it up. And the way the repositioning works is at the end of our season, the top 10 anglers in points get the invite to move up to fish the Bass Pro Tour. And the bottom 10 points of the Bass Pro Tour will then come down back to our pro circuit. So if they ever wanted, they'd have to requalify then to go back up to fish the DPTs.
Way cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, Major League Fishing. Bassin Magazine's in Oklahoma. Major League Fishing's in Oklahoma. Kyle is an Okie also. Again, it's some amazing companies came out of Oklahoma in the fishing industry. I always want to say that when we have an Okie, Kyle. So.
No doubt about it. I mean, the outdoor channel's right there. The Major League Fishing Studios is there. When you're watching JT Kinney and Marty Stone and all them talk, they're right there in Tulsa at their headquarters there in Tulsa. And it's, that's where I grew up. Broken Arrow, Tulsa, went to school at Oklahoma State University, met my wife there. And I mean, I bleed Oklahoma pretty good.
We've had quite a few Okies on here.
Yeah. We've had a couple of Okies on here. Jay loves Chuck Justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big bass guy.
Have you ever been to McGee Creek, Kyle?
I haven't. I've heard amazing things about it, though.
Man. Yeah. Me and you are going.
Down. Let's go.
Yeah. So where are you right now?
I am in Vermont. Near Manchester, Vermont, at a place on the Battenkill River. It's actually an infamous river for trout fishing, or used to be.
Okay.
And we're on our way to Lake Champlain. So we'll be right to Lake Champlain, and our next Pro Circuit event is at the end of July. So
excellent, cool.
The end of July.
Yes, our last stop was on the James River in Virginia. And since my wife and I live in our fifth wheel, we travel full time. There's no reason for us to drive back to Oklahoma or anywhere else. We just go and we camp. So
There you go, man. Brad, I'm jealous again.
She does a really good job of picking these cool little places. She finds these little knack little towns that have really pretty stuff for us to hike and explore. And I'm on a famous trout stream. I mean, I would have never stopped and picked that out. So
that's awesome,
man. That is so cool, Kyle. So you're going to go to Champlain, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
looking forward to that. That's a special fishery. Yep.
It is amazing up there. Yeah, that water is drinking water, clear, real deep.
Yep. Everywhere up here, it seems like they take care of their environment like really, really good up here near the Adirondack Mountains, this Vermont area, and that part of the western part of New York and stuff. Everything's just beautiful. People, if they haven't seen it, I promise you they're picturing the wrong thing. I mean, it's literally, it's a lot more like Colorado than what you think of when you say New York. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
And it's not like Colorado in that it's full of smallmouth bass.
Right. That's
Right.
exactly right. Yep. And largemouth. I mean, it's full of everything. We caught a 6-pound, 13-ounce largemouth today, and then I lost a really big smallmouth. I caught a yellow perch that was, well, you can't see. He was like that long. I don't know. And anyway, it's
Yellow
fun
perch,
fishing.
now, those are some of the best eating fish there is.
It's actually in my live well. My wife, she gets so sick of me. If I ever catch a fish I want to eat, I put it in the live well, and it'll be like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I'll be like, I gotta go clean the fish. She's like, I told you shouldn't have kept it, So, but it's a big one, and I've been like licking my lips for like a big yellow perch to eat, and it's just her and I, and we got a little dog, and I mean, I can cook one fish, and she can eat something else, like it's that easy. So,
Man, that is, I love yellow perch. When you catch yellow perch to the ice, wow.
Oh, I never got to do that, but I always dumb onto them when I'm bass fishing. But then I'll just throw them in the live well. Same thing with the walleye. But
yeah, it's gonna be a good sandwich. You got to eat a walleye. If you catch a walleye, you got to eat that. Yeah.
And I caught a crappie today, and I almost kept it. I was like, I ain't gonna catch nothing else. And then I caught the perch. I thought, man, I should have kept it. I could have had a crappie sandwich and a yellow perch sandwich or something. So, yeah.
Good. So you're up in Vermont. You're in Okie. What got you started in fishing? What age? What said? What happened in your life that you can remember?
It's all my dad. My dad he loved fishing before I was born. He fished little tournaments and stuff with his buddies, and David Engel, I think, was one of his good partners. And when he had me, I became number one responsibility. And well, it wasn't long, and he couldn't go fishing much unless I went with him. But he tells me before I was 3 years old, I was casting my own Texas rig plastic worm and catching bass on it. So he kind of built me up into an outdoors. I love the outdoors thanks to him, and he follows me along. He knows the bass statistics better than I do. He'll be telling me who did what plays, how they caught, like on these other tournaments. And he's probably watching. I don't know if he is or not. I don't know if he figured out a way to find the link, but that's how I got into it. I got into it real early age, did pond hopping stuff, met some friends in middle school and high school. We rode bikes to whatever pond that would either allow us or not allow us to fish, and we'd get kicked off. And did a lot of crappie fishing and catfishing, to be honest. That was because we like to bring home dinner, like we were talking about. And then the whole bass fishing thing, we never really owned a boat. We had one for a real brief period that went kaput on us for like a month or something. But we didn't have a bass boat until I got out of college, until I got my engineering degree, and we had the ability to save up some money. And my dad and I went halves together on a $10,000 used Ranger. That was a pro craft boat with an old 150 EFI, and we fished a bunch of jackpots together. And then we upgraded to a 20-foot Ranger with a 200 horse on it, and that 200 horse, it was a 2000 Ranger, is what I won Angler of the Year out of on the Costa Series, Toyota Series. And then I got this invite to join FLW Tour, and here we are on year 6 or 7, and I'm still doing that. I just quit my full time. I was a civil engineer for almost 14 years, I guess. And we decided let my wife quit her healthcare job, and I quit my engineering job. We sold our house when the market was crazy, and we bought this fifth wheel and diesel, and so that's what we're doing full time.
That's awesome.
Get Marshall on. You guys got to meet Marshall. We adopted a dog. We had a couple dogs, and they got old and passed away on us, and we thought we didn't need any more dogs. And then now my wife's lonely all the time, so this is Marshall. He is a Maltese poo-poo, and he was about 9 months old when we adopted him, and we've had him now for about 3 weeks. And he's
new.
Yeah, he's new. He's like 3 weeks new, but he's incredible. Hasn't had one accident in the camp. Really smart. Lets us know when he needs to go. He's already learned several tricks from us, and
good.
And he's a mama's boy, but he don't mind. He likes it when I come home too. He gets pretty excited. But
so where have you fished this year so far?
Okay, so I'm fishing the Bassmaster Opens, the Centrals and the Southerns. So I fished all of those, which included Kissimmee, Cherokee. I had a good chance to win Cherokee, but the other ones, Ross Barnett is the other ones, and then we've still got several left. We've got Sam Rayburn left. We've got
Oh, there you go.
the ever-loving Red River down in Louisiana. Jay, down in your, we got that. I ain't been there since like 2008 or something, so I don't even know. And then we go to Hartwell, I think is one of the other ones that's left. And then the pro circuit started at Rayburn. And then we shot over to Florida. We fished the Harris Chain, and then we fished Pickwick and Gunnersville, and we just fished the James River. That was our 5th stop, and we only got 6 stops this year. So the last stop, Champlain, and then they'll take the top 48 anglers to fish the championship on the St. Lawrence River in Messina, New York, for more smallmouth. So,
wow,
that's awesome.
So how'd you do down on the Harris chain?
I cashed a check. I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I don't know. I worked hard. I've cashed a check in 4 of our 5 events, but I didn't kill it. I thought I was going to do really well there. Had a really big bite. They got away from me on day 1, and you just got to get those big bites in Florida. If you get a chance to one of those 7, 8, 9 pounders, that's kind of make or break you in Florida. You got to get that one big bite on one of those days, and he'll carry you through to day 3. So. Excuse me.
That tournament, did a front come through on that tournament?
Yeah, it was actually pretty cold. Yeah, it was kind of cold and chilly and wet. On day 1 of takeoff, my graph almost fell off. I had to stop, and then my favorite Kistler hat blew off. I couldn't find it, and like I like to never get to my starting spot, but I finally did.
Yeah, I was thinking a front came in on that because a lot of people did great practice, and then boom, that front hit. How'd you do at Pickwick?
Pickwick, I made the top 50. It was a tough derby, but I found some deep offshore eelgrass that the post-spawn fish were starting to pull up to, and I kind of committed to it at the end of day 1. There was a lot of spawners, but everybody was fishing the same flooded cypress trees that had fish spawning on them. So I kind of beat on those with everybody early day 1, and then got offshore, caught a couple of good ones, and then I sat there all day on day 2 and caught 16, 15, almost 17 pounds, moved up in the top 50. Yeah, and then day 3, I kind of broke down on the water, and Brett Hite kind of saved me and took my 3 fish in, but I kind of had a mechanical malfunction, so kind of took me out of it.
That's the slogan for Bassin Magazine. It's always something.
Yes.
Always. It's just like, it's the whole reason I'm late. I had something come up that kept me on the water an extra 15, 20 minutes, and it's always something, and the timing's never good.
Yeah. Ever. You're good. That Tennessee River, Kentucky Lake, Pickwick, just all of them down there is just amazing fisheries. Kentucky's my favorite, but the whole Tennessee River is just awesome. Yeah,
I got to experience Kentucky before the Asian carp, and when it was really, really good, smallmouth, largemouth. Where I had one derby where I had 2 in the box early, and they were 2. I had 2 for 12 something. I had a 7 and a 5, and I was stroking a jig 50 foot deep on the ledge, and you could still jerk the rod out of your hand 50 foot deep. And I know it's starting to come back. I know they've had some issues with the Asian carp, but I know it's starting to come back, and the average weights and population of fish. So they're turning that around. But yeah, the Tennessee River as a whole is incredible. The Chickamauga, the Pickwicks, it's all good.
Yeah.
One thing we like to talk about here on the Bassin Magazine podcast is confidence. Could you please talk about your confidence go-to presentations?
Yeah, those are kind of evolved for me. So if you would ask me every 2 or 3 years, if you're going to ask my confidence bait, it seems to change every so often. And part of that's the environment they force us to go fish in, and then we start to learn new techniques that end up working really well for us. But for me, the tried and true, I'm a jerkbait guy. I've been that way before the forward-facing sonar technology. I fell in love with the jerkbait a long, long time ago, and so it kind of behooves the fact that the new forward-facing sonar, you can catch a lot of fish using a jerkbait, because I already like throwing them.
Yeah, well, Hank Cherry certainly has caught a lot of fish throwing jerkbait, so
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anglers out there that really love jerkbaits. I don't think it's no secret they catch fish. and you can catch them all year long on it. A lot of guys don't, they only want cold water and long pauses in between twitches, and that's not necessarily true. And we're learning more about fish behavior with this forward-facing sonar. We can see that they'll taste a lot of baits.
It is one time that you can catch fish on jerkbait. Certainly, is pre-spawn.
Oh yeah,
but there's a big but on the end of that sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But up there where you're at, throw a jerkbait, you might just catch a toothy critter.
Oh yeah. Well, it don't matter what you throw up here. Them toothy critters eat everything too. I mean, you can't really get away from that. I don't think I can. I lose all my baits, every kind of bait to them. So
but a jerkbait is particularly effective for muskies and northern pike and walleyes.
Oh yeah. Well, anything with a blade on it too. Spinnerbait, chatterbait, they love the flashy things. So.
Yeah. You need to get a muskie while you're up there.
Man, I've never even got to hook one. I was on St.
Don't you be wishing that evil on him.
I'm fishing on St. Clair in one of our tournaments. It may have been a practice day, and I engaged my trolling motor. It's crystal clear water, and I engaged my trolling motor, and something caught my eye. And I looked down, and this giant muskie swam up from under it and got like inches from my trolling motor and was just staring at it. I'm like, is he gonna eat my trolling motor? And I had disengaged the trolling motor, and he started to swim off. So I hit the pedal to move my boat again. And as soon as I turned that pedal on, that sucker turned around and as fast as he could ran up there to it and got like an inch away from it. He was gonna eat my trolling motor head. I'm like, these are the meanest fish. If I would have kept running the propeller, I promise you he would have hit it. And I'm like, I don't have a spare prop. Like, I don't want him to hit it. Like,
that would have taught him.
Yeah. There's some massive muskie in St. Clair.
I am not a fan of muskies.
Yeah, I'd like to try to catch one. I mean,
Well, I grew up there, so I caught a lot of them when I was young, and I did the opposite of Christine Fisher. I caught one and I said, okay, that's enough. I cast it for 3 days, caught a muskie. That's enough. I can go back to fishing for bass and walleyes now. I mean, it was exciting, and I've caught several of them, by accident. Every year I caught a couple of them by accident.
So back to confidence bait. That's the good thing about the Bass Magazine podcast is we always get off subject, and at the end we're like, man, we got to talk about this, and you got to come back. But anyway, getting back to on subject, confidence bait for the weekend angler. They want to try a new technique, drop shotting, jerk baiting. I mean, something like that. What's your advice on how the weekend angler can go about learning confidence in a new technique or bait?
Yeah, I mean, so I would encourage the weekend angler, if you stumble onto an area or you have a place that you find a population of fish, and maybe you've got a current confidence bait, maybe you're throwing a little shaky head worm around and you're getting a lot of bites, and so there's a lot of fish there. Force yourself to tie on some of those other baits that you yearn to have confidence in, but you haven't had the right opportunity. And because what I found I get limited practice days. I get just a couple days of practice. So a lot of times when I find a school of fish, I'll run through 10, 15 different baits to see which ones they'll eat and won't eat. And sometimes that progresses into building confidence in a bait that I didn't have confidence in at all. All of a sudden I get 2 bites in a row on a bait. I'm like, really? And then I keep that in my hand as I move around the lake, and I realize, oh, dude, they like this bait here, And so if you're fortunate enough to find an area that already has fish, that you catch fish there all the time, don't go there and throw the bait they always bite. Go throw one of these different baits because the fish are there, and see if you can build some confidence that way.
And that goes for a lake, a pond, whatever.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, pond's a great place to build confidence. My wife, I can get her to go fishing at the lake for a few hours, but lake fishing is tough, boy. But you go get on a good farm pond, and she's all in on that because them bass are stupid or something. I don't know. So, you got a good farm pond stocked full of bass or what a crappie, whatever you want, those are great ways to build some confidence.
Well, they don't get beaten up, every day of the year like they do on lakes.
Right.
Yep. That's it. And it's a smaller body of water, so their opportunities to feed are less.
Yeah.
You know, that they can't just go roam around to a totally different creek and find shad spawn going on or here and there. I mean, there's probably very little to choose from there. So when they get an opportunity to eat, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So you're going to be going to Champlain next. What is
Yeah.
now? When have you fished Champlain before?
I have. Yeah, we had a tournament back in end of June of 2019. And I barely cashed a check there. One of the last checks I just snuck in. Catch a lot of fish, but you do got to get that. You got to get above the 3 pound average there. 15 pounds is not, it's not good there. It's good everywhere else out, you know, that aren't smallmouth fisheries. 15 pounds a day is good everywhere, all times of the year. But up there, you got to get above that.
So how are you going to attack a body of water that's that size your first day out?
So, you know, all of the practice happens way before you get there for us and probably a lot of anglers. I mean, everybody has access to all the same stuff online now. Your Google Earth imagery, your old aerial dates, tournament results are a big deal now. You start to get an idea of what weight you need to be looking for. So, you know, if it took a tournament last week, if it took 17 pounds to get paid, then, you know, you better go find 17 pounds. You know, you need to find 3.5 pound quality fish. So you got to go in there knowing what you're looking for before you even get there. And so that's a big part of it. So now I've done my research. I know this part of the lake's clear. This part of the lake's muddy from aerials. I choose my strength. I'd rather fish muddy or clear. I know what size fish I'm looking for. And then I start going and breaking down what are the stages of the fish. So a lot of the tournament results and stuff, guys are holding up fish. The anglers are holding up their fish. You can look and see, are the tails worn off? Or does that fish look post-spawn, pre-spawn? Is it fat? Is it chunky? That tells an angler a lot. And that may not be true across the entire body of water. You know, the Lake Champlain's over 100-something miles long. So, but it gives you enough to go off of, you know. And so you can start then breaking down the lake. Do I need to be in spawning areas? Or do I need to be in those post-spawn or pre-spawn feeding areas? And then you can start breaking the lake down based on what you know going into it. So that's what I do. And then from there, I pick out whether I'm in points or spawning bays or whichever it is. And I go start trying a bunch of baits I want to catch them on. And then the bass have to start talking to you. You got to start getting bites or seeing them on your active target, seeing them behave in an aggressive way. So
since you guys travel in your RV to your tournaments, do you, how many days do you pre-fish? I mean, are you getting there 3 weeks ahead of time?
Yeah, so I some of them I'm getting here way ahead of time. The body of water goes off limits to us 2 weeks before official practice. So no matter what, if I'm not there 3 weeks before the tournament, basically, I don't get to pre-practice. So even when I'm getting to pre-practice, I'm basically there a month before the tournament. So a lot of stuff can change in a month.
Right.
As we've gone later into the year where the fish are done spawning and they start to get in their post-spawn feeding behavior, it's become more beneficial for me, even a month early, to start going find where these fish wanting to feed up. You know, like in Gunnersville. Gunnersville was a great example. I had a great event at Gunnersville. I finished, I think, 16th or 17th. Totally could have made the top 10, just lost a bunch of good fish. But I went there a month early, and I already found post-spawn fish feeding offshore, and I started to put together a really good pattern and find more areas like that. Come the tournament time, those areas even had more fish in them, which is what you would expect as more fish got done spawning. So it's helped me a lot as we've got to the midpoint and on. But early on, like Sam Rayburn, I went and fished a week before the cutoff, and I found several good schools of fish. And come tournament day, come official practice, I spent a day and a half of my 2 days trying to figure out where my fish went. So I literally wasted my practice because of my pre-practice. So it hurt me really bad. And that was my worst tournament of the season. And I thought, looking at the schedule, it would be my best. That was my worst performance. So it can help and it can hurt is what I'm learning.
Do you keep a journal or a notepad, anything like that, so you can say, hey, I pre-fished Champlain, in June. Our tournament was in July, but next year, I got a tournament up there. Now it's June, and I kind of have a little bit of history there during that time.
So I used to keep an Excel spreadsheet where I kept everything. I kept the weather, I kept what the temperature was, the lake level, the name of the lake, the wind trends, and I write myself a blog entry for what I did in the tournament, what I used, what weights, what it took to win, what I did wrong. I used to do that, and I still have that spreadsheet, but I quit doing that about the time I started my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel for me serves as my diary. I can go back and watch it, and it triggers my memory to remember a lot of that. Now, there's some of it I'm still missing, but I can generally watch my YouTube video, and it's a lot easier than writing all that down in a spreadsheet. So,
boy, Kyle, you told me you're an engineer, then you told me about your journal. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
yeah.
That's the kind of things engineers do. They're so
It was intricate. It was color shaded and everything. Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah.
And you can watch Kyle's YouTube at
Kyle Cortiana Fishing. Kyle Cortiana Fishing. It's on YouTube. Just search Kyle Cortiana Fishing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I try to post at least 2 videos a week. I just try to keep the content coming. And then my wife and I have another channel called Hitching and Fishing that we started because now we're full-time hitching, and B&W Trailer Hitches is our title sponsor. So we try to go make some fun content in between fishing tournaments. Sometimes we go fish together too, which is always fun, but we try to go do some hikes and we do some wine tasting and get a little silly. So we try to put some fun stuff in there as well.
Way cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And to spend that time on the road with her instead of being away from home, that's awesome.
There you go.
Oh Kyle. Yeah, we need to not take it for granted. We're getting to do this. I turned 40 this year, and she's a couple years younger than I am, and to be able to do this while we're still pretty young and
yes.
Explore. Last night we were eating dinner, and we had the best burger we've ever had over here in Manchester, Vermont. Like, we were like fighting over it because I ordered the burger, and I was like, try this, and she's like, give me another bite. It's like, and but we've just spent like 10 or 15 minutes talking about all the places we had eaten already this year, and we couldn't remember all the different states we've been to. And there's not many couples, at our age that have that opportunity. We don't have any children, and it's not because we didn't want them, just God hasn't blessed us with children. So it affords us this opportunity to do this with no real responsibilities other than ourselves. So we're just taking advantage of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I got a question on the Bassin page from Dave. It said, if you're fishing jerkbaits year round, how do you figure out what retrieve first?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've learned early on, good general rule of thumb: the warmer the water, the faster the twitch.
There you go.
It's really that simple. More times than not, it is that simple. Now with forward-facing sonar, we can truly see how the fish are behaving. But a lot of people don't have that technology. It's expensive. It's maybe not necessary. If you're not a big tournament angler, you may not need that technology. You're still going out and fishing based on instinct, which I love. And you're just going and fishing windblown points and things like that. So, but general rule of thumb: the warmer the water temperature, the faster the twitch. The other thing, if you're having any success with topwater bites in the morning, a lot of times in the summer, your topwater bites in the morning and evening. If you're getting good topwater bites, those fish are sitting. They're okay with being shallow. A lot of times in the summer, they're not. So a shallow jerkbait for me in the summer months can be really, really good. And you might think a fish is going to be deeper in the summer months. And there's a time and a place for that. But for me, a really shallow, fast twitch jerkbait in the summer is an overlooked pattern that a lot of anglers don't do, especially in Oklahoma.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially in Oklahoma.
Man, that makes a lot of sense everywhere.
Yeah. It's a little trick that I've done in Oklahoma for a long time that I know nobody's going down the lake of Fort Gibson in June, July, or August with a jerkbait twitching at 100 mile an hour on shallow points. So don't do that, or do that, whatever don't do that against me in a tournament, because you'll find me there.
I've been on the north side in Paradise Cove where those old house foundations.
There you go.
You catch them right there.
you
You know
go.
what I'm talking about?
I know. Yes,
Yeah.
Fort Gibson is the one I know the best. Of all the lakes I've floated my boat on, Fort
Yeah.
Gibson I know the best.
And that makes a lot of sense. Just burn it past them. Don't give them a chance to really see what it is, and then and they'll just instinctively go after it. That's the reaction bite. Yeah.
Yeah, and bigger jerk baits. So just summer patterns. Fish want big. They don't want to exert a lot of energy to catch. To eat a little bitty nothing. So don't throw the little small lucky craft 2 hooks. Put some on over 3 hooks. Bigger bait.
Yeah.
Usually
Big
shad color.
old realis, man. Yeah.
It's good that you say the bigger bait in the summer, because when we had Chuck Justice on, Chuck guides in July and August on Fork, and he's the only guy out there when it's 108 degrees, and he's throwing a 12-inch worm, 11-inch worm, on bottom, and he preached big baits, big baits, big baits, and every time I go down there with him, I mean, he's got something huge tied on, and you're catching big fish. So it's great that you said that and reiterated the same thing.
Yeah, he talked about a 10-pound bass can devour a 3-pound bass. What?
They can. I mean, I have found 2.5-pound spotted bass, like in Alabama on Lake Martin, where there's just a ton. I found 2.5-pound spotted bass with another 2.5 or 2.25-pound spotted bass in their mouth, and they're both going to die because they can't one eat the other, and they get stuck, and you have to get down there and take them apart. Yeah, bass are mean, boy. They're mean, and they ain't scared of much. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about big baits. Do you use the big 12-inch ribbon tail worms or a 12-inch straight worm?
Oh, sure, yeah. In the summer months, yeah. I mean, I'm talking big jigs with big trailers, big worms, all that. Like, I'm a big fan of the Gene LaRue biffle bug. Oklahoma, you got to be. And they got a big bug, and I throw that big bug way more than I throw the standard 4.25-inch bug. I throw the big bug, and so yeah. And today, so I'm trying to get into this glide bait thing. That's a big bait thing.
Yeah.
And I got to do a little bit of that today, and it was really successful. But you get to see a lot of big fish that way. But it shows you that a bait the size of your shoe does not scare a bass. In fact, it won't scare any of them. I saw 3 and 4 bass today at the same time fighting over a bait the size of my shoe, and some of them weren't as big as the bait, and then a couple of them were ginormous. But they ain't scared of it.
Yeah, and you catch a little bitty, fry bass on a 6-inch power ribbon worm. I mean,
yeah.
They'll eat it.
We've all done it. We've all caught a fish and held it up and be like, look, it's as long as the bait.
Right.
Everyone's done that. And that just shows you that they ain't afraid of something that's as big or bigger than they are. They're just not. They're just mean, and they're opportunistic, and they are the alpha fish in the water in their eyes, and anything else that's moving, it's fair game to them.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a weird world for me. You got to be slow and patient, and you talk about having confidence in it. That's the whole reason I did it today, is I was trying to build confidence in it, because it's a big fish. It catches really big ones, and you don't get many bites doing it. You get a lot of fish that look at it and investigate it, and break your heart because they turn away and you never see them again. But it's crazy how many big fish really explore that style bait. It's interesting.
Wow.
You also said something that really struck me, that you're using that to gain confidence in it. There's that word again.
Oh yeah. For me, I want to be good at everything there is to be good at that I'm passionate about. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's cooking fish. I want to be good at cooking fried crappie. But being a professional in the sport, like, I don't like getting beat by some kind of technique that I have no confidence in. And there's several of those that I don't have the confidence in that I need to be able to pick it up and risk my living, because if I don't make a check, I don't pay the bills. You know what I mean? I have to make money fishing. And so I yearn to have confidence in these areas that I'm weak. And so when I get an opportunity like I did today to fish on a totally random body of water and do something, it doesn't affect me financially. It's not a tournament.
Right.
and I get a chance to go out and fun fish. I don't feel the pressure of using the techniques I'm confident in and knowing how to find fish the way I'm comfortable doing it. I can actually go just carefree, go try something totally different, and try to get better at something that I'm not self-admittedly good at. Yeah.
That was a
Building
very
that
good
confidence
explanation.
helps in the future, whether you know it today or in 2 years.
Oh yeah, I took things away from today that will stick with me for a long, long time. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So you had fish come up. They were curious about this glide bait, huh?
Yeah, the guy I went fishing with is gonna be mad that I'm talking about this. He's gonna be afraid that somebody knows what's going on here. But yeah, it was really so. You need wind. You know, if you're gonna do this glide bait thing, wind is your friend. I think sun's better than no sun, mostly because you can see your bait and see how the fish is behaving to it. But no sun, then your bite, you're just going to be just going to shock you when one eats it. But like when you can see it, you literally see the biggest bass in the lake, Jay, will come up right
Really?
behind, and your bait's just sitting there going, woo, 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 woo. And it's like it doesn't look like anything. Yeah, there's one right there. There's a glide. That's what is that? Is that like an arashi or something? But like
It's a Roma made.
yeah. Oh, that's a Rome. Oh, so that's like what, $150?
This was a gift. I'm not real sure. So that's why it's on the shelf.
More than 150. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm new to all this. So like, I mean, my buddy John Canada pulled out a box of the James River the other day, and he said, "I just bought $1,000 worth of these glide baits." And he opens up, there's like 8 of them in there. I'm like,
I thought you were gonna say 2.
no, I mean, but like, I was like, wow, like I can get a lot of worms for $1,000
Lots of worms.
or whatever. I don't. And like,
Or a
what do you
couple of
do when you hook
top-end
a toothy critter? What do you do when you're up here up north and you hook a toothy critter and he takes it? Like,
Well, you have
you gotta
60
take
pound
medicine
rate.
or medication to get over it. Like what? So
I bet this Roma made. I bet this weighs 12 to 16 ounces. This is not light. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't have a rod to throw it on. Plus, I'm not about to throw that much, like you're saying, that valuable of a bait on 12-pound mono.
yeah, I mean, but you throw it on big stuff. You throw it on like 20, 25-pound fluorocarbon. And anyway, it's really interesting to see. You start to realize how territorial bass are as well. Like they may not even be hungry, but they may be like following it to say, "Hey, dude, get out of here."
Yeah, this is mine.
Yeah, you'll notice that there's such different behavior in these fish that they're not always just trying to eat. I mean, they have more to them than that. They become territorial. There's just different things about them, and the more bait you present to them and get to witness it and stuff, the more you learn as an angler. Yeah.
And fishing in that clear water, being able to see the fish come up, just inspect it, the learning aspect of just watching that fish react with nothing, you're going to learn something. Do I twitch it fast? Do I twitch it slow? Up, down, whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you learn. And what you always learn is that every fish reacts pretty much different. I mean, they all have their own little trigger. So
yeah,
there's good rule of thumbs, but the bottom line, if you've ever spent a lot of time bed fishing, that's the best time in the world to learn how different each fish's personality is. And it is, I tell everybody, they're just like a human being. It literally, they are that unique to each fish, how they behave. It blows my mind. Yeah. I literally think there's fish down there that are so kind, and loving and giving. They feel bad about eating something like that. I mean, like it's really weird.
That's the ones I catch. The real nice ones that are like, okay, I'll eat this just because you haven't caught anything all day.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny.
That's awesome. I had another glide bait question and I forgot it. It's, there's I mean, Roma made. I don't know what this bait costs, but there's smaller ones. There's knockoffs. There's other country made baits. I guess any of them, if you can just get the time on the water to use them and to build up the confidence, like Jay and I talk about, you're gonna you see YouTube videos of guys using them and catching fish, but it's not like that's the first time they cast them, and that's what people don't understand.
Right.
The time on the water, that's where I was going. Time on the water.
There's a young angler, and I should give him a shout out. And his name, I think it's Caleb Rogers. I could be wrong, but he started his company, and it's called Weapons of Mass Destruction. And he's making these glide baits, out of his home, out of his house, and it's he's obviously really passionate about it. And those were the baits I threw today, and they loved them. So I'm gonna send him some of these videos, that we took of them working. But
That's awesome.
Let me ask you this last question. What set of circumstances would make you want to use a big glide bait?
So I'm not a glide guru though. So I don't even want, but I'll tell you what I have learned, and it's the glide bait works really good pre-spawn and even when fish are spawning, and not necessarily to catch them, especially when they're spawning, but they will 100% show you where their bed is. So if you've got a clear water fishery that's got some big fish in it and largemouth are on beds and they're spawning a little deeper, hard for you to see where they're at, that glide bait will show you where those fish are. They will literally come up, show themselves, and you can watch them swim back down, and you can go back with a wacky worm or go back with some other presentation and get that fish to bite. So there's that scenario. And then when you start talking about the fish transition into post spawn, and now they're wanting to feed back up, so they're targeting bluegill beds, they're targeting shad spawns, they're targeting things like that. So depending on what your fishery has, then it becomes another time where now they're going to eat it. So slow reeling that glide bait over bluegill beds where bass are probably feeding on them. Or if you've got a lake, you got a windblown point that there's a bunch of gizzard shad on or something like that, then something that imitates a gizzard shad. Again, like I said, you want wind. Dead calm conditions, not good to get them to bite. However, dead calm conditions is a good way to see them when they're on beds. They don't care what the conditions are. If they're on beds, you want calm as you can be anyway, but they'll show you where they are. But to actually catch them when they're in a feeding mode, you want wind. And I think sun's probably better than no sun, but the most important part's wind. And it can be a lot of wind. It was pretty rough out there today.
So in a lake with low visibility that they're on the beds, you can swim that and they're going to come up and look at it. Maybe not eat it, maybe eat it, but probably not. And you're going to know, oh, there's a bed down there. That bed's in 6 feet of water. I can only see 3 feet deep.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it just gives you a greater opportunity to catch a fish, and you know what size it is. Like if a little one comes up and looks at it and it ain't gonna help your bag that day, or for me in practice, it helps me locate where a bunch of fish are bedding, that I don't have to spend my time sitting there just staring and looking. Is there one on there? Oh, there is one there. Waypoint, 5-pounder, 4-pounder. But more often than not, the ones that come look at it are dadgum biggins. It's really impressive.
It's amazing. That's awesome.
Okay, well, Kyle, do you have any shout outs you'd like to make?
Oh, sure, man. I always have to thank my sponsors. And like I said, B&W Trailer Hitches is our title sponsor this year, but I've got a lot of good Oklahoma sponsors as well. B&W is in Kansas, but I got Empire Fence out of Owasso, Oklahoma. They've been with me for a long time, family-owned company there that does a lot of good fence work. You've probably seen Empire Fence if you're from Oklahoma in the Tulsa area. I've got Greenleaf Lawn, who has done amazing stuff for us. They've been really supportive, but they do Christmas lights, they do lawns, they set up your garden and bring all your annuals, perennials. They make it all pretty for you. So Greenleaf Lawn's a big one for us. Airy Land Co. is a property company there. Drew Airy, my great friend Eric Zellers, is also right there in town. I got a bunch of them, Kiss the Rods and Reels, and the whole gamut. I'm going to miss some of them, Cross Industries, but you hear it from every angler, and it gets old, I know, but we really have to thank our sponsors. And
absolutely. We watch it.
Gets old.
Yeah, we watch it.
Absolutely. It never gets old.
Yum bait.
Somebody's following you on YouTube. They don't know, hey, I really like, the action of that rod he's using. What is it? And now they know it's Kistler. That's good.
Yeah, so Kistler's special. Kistler's are special rods. I found them on my own. I stumbled onto one day on a guide trip in Florida, and I said, "What are these?" Then I got on eBay and started buying them up on eBay way before I started fishing professionally. And now I've been fishing nothing but Kistler rods for 12 years, and I finally broke my first rod at Gunnersville, and it was my fault. Like, I reared back to set the hook, reeled down, and when I set the hook, the rod was already pointed way back there before I got to the bass, so it kind of, I high tipped myself. But it took me 12 years to break a rod, and I fish them hard. So great company right out of Texas. I mean, the rods are put together for you right there in Texas. So
Yep. Anybody else?
Man, you put me on. Better thank my wife over here. She's sitting here. I made her turn the TV off because you're laughing. You're in my home right now. I mean, this is my kitchen, living room, my office. This is my everything, and so everything stops come podcast time. So she's just sitting there quiet with the dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank her and thank Marshall.
Yes. Thank Marshall.
There you go. You go.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you being on here.
Yes.
It was kind of short notice when I reached out to you, and I knew you were busy, but man, I appreciate it a ton. Thank you so much, and I know the Bassin subscribers and listeners will enjoy this. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, man.
Well, thank you very much, and make sure you stick around after we stop the podcast. We'd like to talk to you for like 1 minute afterwards.
Sure. And Brad, I'm gonna hold you up to that McGee.
Hey, I'm
McGee
in.
trip. I need to know all about that.
I got Hobies. You ready?
Dude,
there you go.
Come on. I'll fish out anything. Come on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank all of our viewers for tuning into the Bassin Magazine podcast with Jay Angel and Brad Gill. We had very special guest Kyle Cortiana, the MLF Pro. And guys, have a good weekend. Be safe out there on the water.